Today we're going to talk about digestion and absorption. Digestion is the process of breaking down foods into absorbable components in the gastrointestinal tract. Mechanical digestion is the breakdown of food through physical actions. That includes things such as chewing and muscle contractions. Chemical digestion is the breakdown of food with acids and enzymes. The main organs of the gastrointestinal tract include the mouth, the esophagus, the stomach, the small intestine, and the large intestine. The mouth is where digestion begins. Chewing breaks down food into smaller pieces and mixes it with saliva. The saliva contains water, electrolytes, mucus, and a few enzymes, including salivary amylase, which starts to break down the starch. The moist food mass is called a bolus, and it's swallowed and enters into the esophagus. The esophagus is a hollow muscular tube. It connects the mouth to the stomach. The epiglottis is a small flap located in the throat. It's behind the tongue and in front of the larynx. It's usually in an upright position at rest, which allows the air to pass into the larynx and the lungs. But when a person swallows, the epiglottis folds back to cover the entrance of the larynx so food and liquid don't enter the windpipes and lungs. After swallowing, the epiglottis returns to its original upright position. After swallowing, the bolus doesn't just slide down the esophagus by gravity. It uses peristalsis, which is involuntary muscle contractions that moves the bolus down the esophagus towards the stomach. The lower esophageal sphincter, LES, is located at the bottom of the esophagus. It relaxes and allows food into the stomach. It then closes to prevent backflow of acidic chyme from the stomach back into the esophagus. Gastrin is a hormone in the stomach. It stimulates digestion through the secretion of hydrochloric acid, and it also increases gastric motility and emptying. Hydrochloric acid activates pepsin. It also starts protein digestion. The acidic environment reduces microorganisms ingested from the food. Pepsin is a digestive enzyme that breaks down proteins, including collagen, to smaller chain polypeptides. Gastric lipase is an enzyme in the stomach that breaks down a relatively small amount of triglycerides into short-chain fatty acids. Intrinsic factor is a protein that increases vitamin B12 absorption. The ball of food, previously called bolus, is now called chyme. It's a semi-liquid mixture of partially digested food and digestive juices. The pyloric sphincter is located between the stomach and the small intestine. It controls the rate of food entering the small intestine from the stomach. Secretin is a hormone in the small intestine. It's produced in response to acidic chyme, and it slows gastric emptying. Cholecystokinin, or CCK, is produced in response to chyme with high fat or high protein in it. It stimulates the pancreas to release enzymes and the gallbladder to contract and release bile. When gastric inhibitory peptide is released, the rate of gastric emptying also slows down. Trypsin is an enzyme that's activated from its inactive precursor trypsinogen, and it breaks down proteins. Chymotrypsin is also inactivated from its precursor chymotrypsinogen and breaks down proteins too. Carboxypeptidase is a protease that takes off the terminal end of the amino acid group from a protein. Both pancreatic lipase and pancreatic amylase are enzymes produced by the pancreas. Pancreatic lipase breaks down triglycerides into di- and monoglycerides. Pancreatic amylase breaks down starches into smaller chains. Brush border enzymes in the microvilli further break down chyme to more absorbable particles. One example is lactase. Sodium bicarbonate is also produced by the pancreas. It's a compound that isn't an enzyme, but it raises the pH and neutralizes the acidic chyme. The walls of the small intestine aren't flat or smooth. Mucosal folds increase the surface area and helps in the movement of chyme. Villi are these finger-like projections that also increase the surface area, and on those villi are microvilli. They're these like tiny hair-like projections that not only increase the surface area further, but also assist with digestion and absorption. The majority of both macro and micronutrients are absorbed in the small intestine. The ileocecal sphincter is located between the small intestine and the large intestine. It prevents the backflow of fecal matter into the ileum. The large intestine is the last organ of the GI tract. In addition to absorption of remaining water and electrolytes, there's also bacterial fermentation of both fiber and resistant starches. There's no digestive enzymes in the large intestine, so the chemical digestion is done by the bacteria instead. There's also vitamin K and biotin synthesis by the gut bacteria. And lastly, the large intestine is where feces form. The liver does an enormous number of functions in the body, including being an accessory organ in digestion. A few roles include bile production. Bile contains bile acids, which help with the digestion of fat and fat-soluble vitamins. The liver also processes nutrients that were absorbed from the small intestine, and it serves as a glucose storage site in the form of glycogen. The pancreas is a powerhouse of digestion. In addition to producing sodium bicarbonate, it also produces several digestive enzymes such as trypsin, chymotrypsin, amylase, and lipase. It also produces insulin and glucagon, which plays a role with blood sugar regulation. The gallbladder plays an important role by storing and concentrating the bile that was made by the liver. A few examples of improper absorption include celiac disease. It's an autoimmune condition where gluten will attack the villi of the small intestine. Because of the damage done to the villi, it flattens it out, and that causes a decrease in nutrient absorption. Lactose intolerance is a lactase deficiency. Lactase is the enzyme that breaks down lactose that's common in milk and milk products. Because of this, the lactose will travel down to the large intestine where it's fermented by the gut bacteria. This causes the common symptoms such as gas, bloating, and diarrhea. So in summary, mechanical digestion is that physical breakdown of food. That includes things such as chewing and muscle contractions. Chemical digestion is more with things such as acids and enzymes. The main organs of the GI tract are the mouth, esophagus, stomach, small intestine, and large intestine. And the very important accessory organs include the liver, the gallbladder, and the pancreas. A few examples of improper absorption were celiac and lactose intolerance. Love you guys. Go out and be your best self today. And as always, happy nursing.